My question is, what does the panel think of Kemi Badenoch's comment in support to what JD Vance said today?
Now, she's basically said this morning that she knows JD Vance quite well, and when asked if the US Vice President had indeed insulted British veterans, replied, "I've looked at the comments. I don't think he actually said that. A lot of people are getting carried away." By contrast, Nigel Farage said that JD Vance is wrong. Josh?
Well, I've not seen Kemi Badenoch's comments until he just read them out, but it smacks of the same thing that, frankly, I think most of us who've watched the House of Commons or been in the House of Commons have seen of late, which is a sort of desperation. She is clearly worried about Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, and clearly keen to signal to those online, on Facebook, on X, on other social media platforms who follow the sort of online world that JD Vance is such an integral part of, that she too gets it. And she's part of the crowd and she's on the in, and so they can trust her to be a bombastic Conservative leader that they have long been seeking. And to react to anything that even has the hint, that is even understood by the public to be a criticism of British armed forces in that way, seems to me a huge error. The job of a politician is to be really clear that they respect and are grateful for those who serve and who risk giving up their lives to defend our democracy and our country. I represent many people who have served in the armed forces and are still serving in the armed forces. I'm grateful for what they do. And that is, frankly, the only thing that an elected politician of the United Kingdom should be saying.
Andrew?
Well, I was careful not to criticise Starmer too much. But since you make the point, I mean, 3% by the end of next year, is it the year off that? Completely hopeless.
3% by the end of the next Parliament.
Whatever, completely hopeless. And also, of course, relying on GDP means that if GDP goes down, the amount goes down. I mean, it should be on what we need, not anything else. So let's leave politics out of it. I think Kemi Badenoch, actually, she went on and said, as I understand it, she said that she wished that people stop tweeting about everything they've read in the newspapers after 5 minutes. Because actually there's a lot of unhelpful comments being made.
She's not averse to the odd tweet herself.
Sounds like she's repeating the Prime Minister.
Fun enough, I don't really do tweeting. You'll be surprised to hear that, won't you?
I know. I tried to promote the programme today and looking for your Twitter feed, and there wasn't one. Robert?
I think she, to be fair to her for a moment, I think she is actually attempting to learn some of the lesson that the government is pursuing, which is let's not get sucked into every single spat. It doesn't do us any good. It doesn't help in any way. As it happens, this was the one she could have done. As Farage showed, actually, this was about an apparent insult to British troops, which was sufficiently severe that even JD Vance himself felt the need to walk it back a couple of hours later. Whether or not he meant it, I'm not sure who the other 20,000 troops he could have been referring to were. But nevertheless, it was a bad thing for him to say. She could have criticised it, but I think what it really shows is that she hasn't found her touch at all. And a broader political point, I think she is still trying to work out how to navigate the task of being leader of the opposition. It's a very, very difficult job. She doesn't have that many people around her. They don't have much money in this party. She doesn't have many seasoned advisors, and I think she's still trying to work it out. And unfortunately for her, she's outflanked in Nigel Farage by someone who most of the time, he hasn't been his greatest week, but most of the time has a much surer touch.
Are we judging too early, though, given that she's only been leader for 3 months? I mean, you look back to when
prime ministers that have lasted less long.
Well, I know, but you look back to when Margaret Thatcher became opposition leader, and it took her probably a couple of years to get into her stride. Even then, she always had voices off.
It's a fair point. And actually, if we looked at Keir Starmer in his first year as leadership, there were an awful lot.
He nearly quit, didn't he?
A lot of criticism of him. So, I think it's legitimate to say one shouldn't write her off too early. There is time, but politics comes at you a lot faster these days. And there are others in her party, most obviously Robert Jenrick, who quite clearly has a stronger sense of what he wants to be, what he wants the party to be, what he is about. And it's showing her up consistently. You're right, we shouldn't write her off. But it's been an inauspicious start.
But I do think that she is trying to row back from the image that she's an angry, shouty sort of person. Because anybody, and particularly women, and particularly black women, have that over their heads, and it's really difficult to deal with. So I think that she's trying to be moderate, and I think she's actually, in a way, trying to follow Keir Starmer's lead and say, anything we can do to take the temperature down with our allies, let's do it together. So I actually thought it was the right sort of move, but she hasn't got the deftness of ability yet to do that with finesse. And so it looked a bit weak, and it looked a bit inconsequential. And so obviously Farage has managed to kind of dive in there. But I do want to say something in defence of her against Farage, because Farage made a massive own goal, I thought, recently, because, when they said, oh, well, Trump's a very old-fashioned man and he loves people to wear suits and this is why he was so cross. What about, Elon Musk with his baseball cap and his kid on his shoulder in the Oval Office?
And trainers.
And trainers. I mean, he didn't seem to mind that. So I think that Nigel Farage isn't to be trusted in terms of his instincts either.